Hi, I'm Erin Burke, and I'm the Communications and Events Officer at the Scottish Civic Trust. And I'm here today with Fiona Cameron from the Edinburgh Old Town Association for our video series on local heritage and civic groups in Scotland. Thank you so much for joining me, Fiona.
Okay.
To begin, could you please just give me a little bit of background on your group? So about the history, why you started, when you started.
Sure. Well, Edinburgh Old Town Association members include both people who currently live in the Old Town and people who used to live in the Old Town and people who simply love the Old Town. We're very much about the living community. I mean, the Old Town is obviously of great historical interest, but when the association was set up in the 1970s, the resident population was at a really low point. People were being moved out because of road development and slum clearance and so on. So the survival of the Old Town was really hanging in the balance in the 1970s. Its survival as a real place where people lived and worked. And nowadays, the area is facing different threats, but sort of equally potent threats. I mean, it's the historic heart of Edinburgh, and the city is so lucky to have that compared to some other cities, thinking in particular of Glasgow, places like Glasgow and Birmingham, where the historic town centre is a rather sterile place, very much geared up for tourism, but not for a natural community living there. So the Old Town Association's reason for being set up and our current raison d'etre is to preserve the Old Town as a place where people work, live, shop, as well as for tourists. And we would fight, I think, tooth and nail against it becoming Disneyfied the way some other historic town centres have. Because if it's not a living community, then it loses a lot of its character. I mean, the history is a living history, and we're really, really keen to keep that going because it was hanging by a thread in the 70s, but now there's quite a good resident population in the Old Town. But we feel that a lot of the attraction of the area for tourists is that diversity, the fact that people live there and it's a real community. And there are some real threats from holiday lets. I'm sure you've seen some of the publicity about old closes in the Old Town, up possibly in the top part of the high street towards the castle end, where whole closes are more or less ghost towns for part of the time because just very short let transient population of holiday lets. We think that's to the detriment. Obviously, tourists need places to stay, but there are hotels, there is provision for that. The original, I think the original purpose of some of these fairly famous short-term letting companies was that people would they would let a room in their house, they would have guests in their house, but whole houses being given over to that is, it's reducing the accommodation for long-term residents. And, you know, the Old Town Association is very much against that. We do look at all the planning applications that are relevant to the Old Town, and we have objected to, I think, most of the applications for holiday lets, for short-term lets licenses. So we could be accused of NIMBYism, but it's not that. We just feel that if you take a house out of permanent occupation, then you do a lot to destroy the community.
Thanks, Fiona. So what sorts of activities or initiatives is your group up to at the moment?
We have a fairly ongoing sort of calendar of talks on subjects relevant to the Old Town, also guided walks, visits to places in the Old Town. So although we do have some projects, they tend to be one-offs, but the programme of lectures, talks, visits is ongoing. And some of the things that we've done recently, we're also lucky enough to administer some of the funds for a trust called the Brownlee Trust. And what we have done recently is we donated a lot of musical instruments to the Central Library's Children's Library, or the Music Library rather, for the use of younger visitors. I think that there was a project a while back to donate some historic costumes to the Museum of Childhood. So that sort of thing, small projects, but we think they're important.
Definitely. So it sounds like there's a lot of things that people can take part in, which is very exciting.
Absolutely. And it's important to say that since COVID, we've got into the pattern of having our talks and lectures in a hybrid model. So anybody can join in, anybody can listen from New Zealand or whatever. And we think that's quite important. We're going to keep that going.
Yeah, that sounds great. So do you have any plans or new project ideas for the future?
Nothing specific at the moment, just to keep doing what we've been doing, basically. And we'd obviously really like to build up our membership. We've recently started a Facebook page, and you know, there is a presence now in social media. I even started a Threads page for the Old Town Association.
Oh,
So
lovely.
we're right up there with the latest technology. But it's really, really important to get new members. And it's very easy to join through our website, which is www.eota.org.uk. And it's really good value. It's £10 for individuals, £8 concession per year. So that's not bad. And you know, I think it's important to say that we are a very diverse group, because when EOTA started in the 1970s, 90% of the members at that point lived in the old town, and now 90% don't. 100% are very, very keen to see the old town preserved, so that if Lord Coburn or Patrick Geddes came back and strolled down the high street today, they would recognise it possibly partly as some place that they used to live.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time today, Fiona. It was lovely to talk with you. Is there anything else you want to add just before we say goodbye?
No, I think that's it. I think just look at our website, look at our Facebook page, which is simply Edinburgh Old Town Association on Facebook and on Threads, and join us. Join our talks and lectures from wherever you are. Join our guided walks and visits if you live in Edinburgh.
Okay, great. Thank you. And viewers can learn more about other civic and heritage groups in Scotland and how we support them by accessing our YouTube channel at Scott Civic Trust, and then also by visiting our website, and that's scotticicivictrust.org.uk. So thank you, Fiona.